wonderful bye to all of them, and hello to our paper reviewers, because for our final look at the morning papers with journalist and author Yasmin Alibhai-Brown and CEO of International Marketing Partners, Alison Stewart. Alan, so welcome back to both of you. We've done a lot of the main stories around today, but you've picked out some really interesting articles inside the papers. Alison, you're focusing on another artificial intelligence story. We're getting so many at the moment, aren't we?
Well, because it's such an important and potentially deadly topic, believe it or not. So Microsoft have decided that the 20, 30, 40 people it has in China right now focused on AI and AI research are being moved to Vancouver. It's called their Vancouver plan. And really it's as a hedge against the risk that these very talented people in the Microsoft world are actually poached by Chinese authorities, the Chinese government, to work for them, and having this sort of tension between the US and China. It's actually in Microsoft's interest to make sure that these people are looked after and moved physically to Vancouver, where they're creating a campus of global AI leaders and experts. But it's quite interesting as a risk management strategy for Microsoft's point of view to make sure that these talented people with this knowledge are looked after and are now moved to a place where they can be watched, encouraged in Canada rather than in China.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. All the politics around artificial intelligence, as interesting as the technology itself, isn't it? Yasmin, take us to the Express next, because there's an article here about Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor. There are calls always within the Tory party for lower taxes. I'm sure lots of people in the country like that idea as well. So what's the Express saying?
Well, I think there's the Express, which has been gung-ho, Brexiteer and a supporter of Boris, and has always demanded, cutting taxes, small state, and so on. Well, according to the Express, Jeremy Hunt is considering, he buys into those values, and there's been a very strange few years for the Tories when they have actually had to create a bigger state than ever before because of COVID and so on. So it's an indication, actually, that Jeremy Hunt, who's a very sensible kind of guy compared to some in the Tory front bench, nevertheless is going to be caught between the Trussites, if you like, cut taxes, and all the other issues that need to be handled by any government, the cost of living crisis, housing, and so on. But we'll see which way he turns. My bet is he'll cut a bit of tax just before the election in the hope that we'll all vote for them.
I'll come back to you on that nearer the time, and we'll see if you're right. Let's turn, shall we, Alison, next, though, to the Times and a story about a shorter working week here.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually two stories next to each other on the same page, which is quite revealing. One is about regional workers. So those outside London, 93% of organizations outside London are back to pre-pandemic levels of their staff. And importantly, this recent survey done from a property management company surveying 24,000 employees basically concluded that people will only come back if they're provided with collaboration spaces. So this has big implications for leaders, because leaders in organizations need to encourage people to come back into the office more than 1-2 days a week, ideally 4 days a week, I think, for most leaders. But you have to make it worth their while. And the article, in fact, next to it is about Martin Sorrell trying to balance and juggle this dilemma about how do we create that glue, that social cohesion, that way of engaging staff when they are in the office. How do we transmit corporate cultures by getting people into the office rather than through a screen when they're working at home? So interestingly, both of these are stories about leaders and what corporate, executives really need to be doing to make sure that they get people in the office for the right reasons, and once they're there, they're used to best effect. It's I know many stories of my own clients who go into the office 3 days a week, and yet the rest of their teams are working from home. So then you think, well, why did I bother coming into the office if nobody's here?
Yeah.
So you need a plan, and you need a way to provide that glue that keeps people together in person. That's how stuff gets done.
Yeah, I mean, and very quickly on this, Yasmin, because we haven't really got time to go to a news story. Very briefly, I mean, have you always worked at home as a journalist, or a journalist more used to it? Very briefly.
Yes, always. I'm just not clubbable. I love my own company, and I always work from home. But my husband, as Alison says, he loves going to the office.
Okay, we've got to leave it there, but we'll have more on that, on politics, home, domestic and international soon.
Thank you.
In the meantime, do stay with us. Reaction on both sides to the shock resignation of Boris Johnson.